Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be installing these new motor mounts on my 2001 Volkswagen Golf TDI. These are from 034 Motorsports, and I got new hardware as well because these are stretch bolts. I highly recommend replacing the bolts when you do this job. Here's the motor mount for the transmission side. Right there's your part number. And here's the other side, the left side, and then the bottom mount here, or the Dogbone mount. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started. You'll need the vehicle safely supported. I have it on these race ramps, but you can do whatever you want. As far as jack stands, just make sure it's safe before you crawl underneath it, because we'll need to support the engine with a jack once we get to that point. So I'm going to start over here on the left side, and we'll have to remove this pipe here, power steering reservoir, and we might have to loosen this up a bit to get at the hardware. Just squeeze this here like this and slide this back and then release it. Now we can disconnect that hose. Okay, now for the one that's difficult, right down in there. You can see that. See the clamp right there. So we'll get that cable down in there and get that clamp undone. Okay, I have my cable down there. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze. I'm going to set this off to the side and then wiggle this intake tube out. This is a little difficult to film, guys. Okay, there we go. Alright, it's free. So now I just need to maneuver it up out of here. Okay, there we go. That's out of there. Now, we can move on to the next step. Remove that little Allen bolt there, which secures this power steering reservoir to the top of that mount. Okay, this is 5mm. This shouldn't be too tight. This is plastic, so there we go. Got it by hand. Okay, that's loose. See if I can grab it. Okay, there we go. That's a pretty long bolt. Set that aside. Now you can see this reservoir is free. The only thing we'll have to do is just slide it left or right. We have some play here to get access to those bolts. So now we have this bolt back here. So we'll do that next. Okay, before we remove this bolt here, we need to remove these two Phillips screws that secure this coolant reservoir ball here, or expansion tank, because we can't get at that. I mean, you could if you put a swivel socket on it, but we also need to get at that bolt way down there for the engine mount. So this is in the way. So it's best just to loosen or remove both of these screws, and we'll loosen it up and move it out of the way. Be careful you don't drop these screws. This has a magnetic tip, which really helps. Whew, got lucky. Now we can wiggle this and move it one way or another to gain access to this bolt right here. Okay, I have my 13mm socket on there with a 10-inch extension, 3/8 drive ratchet. We'll go ahead and loosen this up. Okay, there's one more 13mm bolt right down there where my socket's at. It's holding the rest of that bracket on, that black piece there. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen that and remove that bracket. Alright, now we can remove that bracket. It's loose. I'm going to use my magnet again. Okay, that is out of there. On to the next step. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and loosen all these motor mounting bolts. These ones are 16mm, one here and then one in the back right down there. And then we have these two which are larger at 18mm, one here, one here. So I'm just going to loosen them. And then we can put our jack underneath and support the engine and then fully remove them and take the mount out. Okay, that one's loose. The other one in the back. That one's loose. Switch sockets. Just watch that coolant hose. You have to maneuver it a little bit. There we go. I can loosen these. These are a lot tighter than the other ones. So I have a breaker bar on here. Okay, those are loose. Now we can go underneath the car and put the jack to support the engine. Alright, I have my jack set up like this, the 2x4 there on the oil pan, just ever so slightly. You're going to have to tweak it up or down, once you remove this mount and get the new one in there, but it's there for support. So we're going to go ahead now and slowly remove all the hardware. Okay, what I have to do is disconnect this hose here, and that will allow me to move this reservoir out of the way. I'm just going to swing it up towards the back. You will lose power steering fluid. Make sure you have some on hand. So here we go. That's what it looks like out of the way, but resting right there. And now I should be able to get that mount up through here. Okay, it's out of there. Good time to clean up any debris that you have down there. I see you have a couple leaves. I'll clean that up real good and then bring the new mount over. Okay, here's the old mount and the new mount. You can see this mount here wiggles a lot. That rubber is really worn out. Or this one here, I can't even really budge it. It's a lot stiffer. But here's the part number. Right here on top, you can see that. And there's the part number on the new one. We'll go ahead and put this up into position. All right, it's in position. Looks like I'm going to have to jack up the motor a little bit to meet that mount. And I'm just going to go ahead then and start threading the hardware in. Make sure you use new hardware. Do not reuse the old stuff. Okay, I have the bolts all in there. One thing to note here, this gap back here has to be 14 millimeters, and up front this gap has to be at least 10 millimeters, so check that. And also the shoulders of the bolts have to be lined up with the edge of the mount. Both of them do. This one here and this one here. So they have to be flush with this right side of the mount. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to torque anything down yet. I'm going to wait until I get at this transmission mount on the other side, get that one in place the same way as over here, and then I'm going to go ahead and torque them all together. Okay, it's time to remove this air box and take this off. You just push down here and pull back just like that. Set that out of the way. And then we have, let's see, 1, 2 Phillips screws there for the box lid. I'm going to remove that. There's a vacuum hose here on the back. Just pull that out. Okay. Set that over here, out of the way. Okay, remove the air filter. Good time to replace your air filter if you need to. Okay, we have two 10mm bolts, this one here, and one right there in between the battery box and the air box. I have my 10-inch extension. Get down in there. They aren't very tight. This one. I'll have to get my magnet for that bolt. Okay. There's our mount right there. So we need to take this plastic cover off here to lift this up a little bit. Okay. Okay, set that aside. There's a bolt under this wire loom right here. Okay, my socket here is on the 13mm bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this. And then we have two 16. There's one down through this hole here, and this one right here, and then the two 18. So I'm going to loosen everything now and remove the mount. Don't forget to put your jack underneath to support the transmission. And remember, be safe. That's what it looks like. Okay, that one's loose. It wasn't very tight. Okay, that one's loose. Alright, those two are loose. Get the jack underneath and support that transmission. Okay, that's where I have my jack at, right there. Just slight pressure, guys. You don't have to crank up on it. Just lift up a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and remove these bolts. Little tip, when removing these bolts, if you feel any binding or anything, stop. You should be able to do this by hand once you get it loose. Because you got to be careful, because this is going into aluminum. You don't want to ruin the threads. Okay, the hardware is all removed. Now I can try to get this mount out of here, but I can't because the transmission is in the way. And this transmission mount's in the way down here, so what I need to do is lower the transmission ever so slightly so I can slide this mount out of here. There we go. All right, that's out of there. I don't see a Volkswagen part number on here. That's what I was looking for. A lot of crap inside this mount. Anyways, here's our new one, ready to go in. I'm going to clean that mounting surface up in there first. Yeah, I'll clean that area up down there real quick and slide the new mount in place. Okay, ready for the new mount. What I'm going to do is get these 3 bolts started. That way the mount is sort of secure in its location, and then lift that transmission up to meet the bottom of this mount here, and then start to thread in those 2 18mm bolts. Okay, for this mount here, it's a little easier than the other side, but this distance here and this distance here has to be parallel. 18 to 20 millimeters would be the gap there. So you can use a pry bar and tweak it if need be, which I'm going to have to do here because I'm a little off. But yeah, you can move it like that and tighten it down. So yeah, that's what you have to do until you get it lined up. And if you look at the old mount, you can see the outline of where the bolts were, kind of in the center of that slot there. And then this distance here has to be, the same, roughly the same as this distance over here. Okay, this mount is snug. Now I just need to torque everything down. The 18mm bolts, the larger bolts, get torqued to 100 Newton meters, or about 74 foot-pounds. And then the smaller 16mm bolts get torqued to 40 Newton meters plus 90 degrees, or about 29.5 foot-pounds plus a quarter turn. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now on both sides and start to button everything up. Those are torqued. Now these ones require the additional quarter turn, so I'm going to get my breaker bar for that. Same thing for this side, 74 foot-pounds. Okay, 16 millimeter bolt torque time. These get torqued to 40 Newton meters plus a quarter turn or 90 degrees. Alright, the last bit here, the 13 millimeter bolts, they get torqued to 18 foot-pounds. Don't forget this one too, it's hidden behind this wire. Okay, now we can go ahead and button it up top here, put the air filter box back in, and all the hoses and connections. And then over here, the power steering fluid reservoir, intercooler pipe, and whatnot. I'm not going to film any of this because if you got this far, you know what you're doing. Okay, now it's time to remove this lower mount. We have two 16 millimeter bolts there and then two 13 in the back. I'm going to remove these 13 millimeter ones first. Okay, we're not going to reuse these. I have new hardware. Always use new hardware. I believe this is the original. I've never replaced it. And this vehicle has 234,000 miles on it. Alright, there we go. That's out of there. Okay, here they are, side by side, new and old. Here's the part number if you want to keep it OEM. And here we go with the new one by 034 Motorsports. Okay, I'm going to get all these bolts started by hand first. I'll start with these 13 millimeter ones. Get them in there and then do the 16s. These two in the rear get torqued to 15 foot-pounds plus a quarter turn, or about 20 newton meters and 90 degrees. These two get torqued to 40 newton meters plus an additional 90 degrees, or about 30 foot-pounds and an additional quarter turn. Okay, that one's torqued. That one's torqued. Okay, now we need to go an additional 90 on those. Okay, that one's done. And that one's done. Okay, those are torqued. That's it for down here. Well, that pretty much wraps it up, guys. Don't forget to top off your power steering fluid reservoir before you head out on the road. I just got back from about a mile drive and everything went well. I did notice more vibration, but that's to be expected, especially with these stiffer motor mounts. So we'll see what happens later in the week after I put some miles on it. I know these have a break-in period. Yeah, hit that like button if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.